Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Ice Cream for Everyone podcast, where play meets strategy. I'm your host, Willem Vanderhorst. In case you're not familiar with the show, I'm a strategy consultant and a speaker with extensive experience in branding, creative communications, and coaching. I'm also a tabletop gamer, a video gamer as well, particularly interested in play, and I mix all of those things in practicing and learning about what I call playful strategy. And I talk about all these things and a lot more with guests on the show and with clients and in public talks, at workshops, and more. If you follow the podcast, you might have heard that I've been working on evolving the format of the show to share and discuss play, gaming, creativity, and strategy topics with guests on the show, evolving it from what used to be, if you're not familiar with the show, more traditional interviews with my guests. So that tended to be always about people's stories. So they're pretty evergreen. You can go back in the list of episodes and find out about a lot the lives and stories of a lot of fantastic professionals, how they grew up and how they got to where they are today. So in that sense, that's something that I really, really enjoy about that style of conversation. But I wanted to do something that will be more playful. And the brand new test, I'm always testing things for this episode, which you won't see if you're listening to the audio side of things as per usual, is I'm recording video and audio for the first time for the episode intro and outro bits with images and stuff around me. For the first time, so I have a photo of my guest here, Uma, a visual of the science fiction tabletop role-playing game Mindjammer by Sarah Newton that we're going to talk about. The map of the Mindjammer universe, I think, is right above my head, and Prince should be anyway. And a Star Trek Next Generation poster, because we talk about Star Trek a little bit and we talk about being particularly interested in the show. And first time blending all those things. I've been trying and testing, organizing things around video, and trying to figure out what I can do with my pretty limited equipment, with my laptop and my webcam that doesn't really like streaming software, but that's what I'm using at the moment. And bear with me and bear with I'm like trying to see like where am I looking in the right place in the camera, but I'm also reading the text that I wrote because I didn't learn my script by heart. So I rehearsed because I made mistakes in the previous take. So all of that is going on. So I guess consider this a little bit of an always in beta. So please bear with me. My apologies for like the bits and pieces, technical bits and bobs that are not exactly working the best way possible or not as well as I'd like. Which is the case of a lot right now. I'm just testing a lot of tools, hacking them, seeing how well they can work. Not hacking's a big word, but just like repurposing for my own usage, I guess. While I'm mentioning, while I'm thinking about all the technical bits at the same time, before I forget, I also want to apologize for the bumping noises in the recording. I seem to refuse, because it's not the first time I'm apologizing for this. I seem to refuse to sort it out, even though I'm pretty sure I know what's causing it. It's my desk chair bumping into the side of the table that's reflecting onto the mic. But really what's going on is I'm in my living room. I like it because I can see the sky and the beautiful building across the street. And my actual desk is full of paperwork that I need to sort out. And it's kind of dark in there. Anyway, moving on. I'm joined by Uma Rudd Chia today. Uma's a creative director, best-selling author, global keynote speaker, and founder of the Female Idea. Originally from Malaysia, Uma lived and worked internationally and is now based in Singapore. I had the chance and privilege of working right next to Uma because we were sat next to each other. We were desk neighbors and buddies while working at the advertising agency. So it's a global ad agency, but in the office in Singapore. Most of the time didn't work directly together, but we were sat next to each other and we chat about that a little bit more. So I'll leave that to the conversation. We kept in touch during the lockdown. I asked her if she'd be up for being on the show. She gracefully said yes. And I was grateful she gracefully said yes. And I asked her to pick a topic that she'd be interested in chatting about. And she chose space. So we exchanged a few messages in turn, because that's the whole pitch of the show, is guest topic plus me picking a game. And I picked Mindjammer as a game to talk about. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the episode. But Mindjammer is an award-winning science fiction / space opera tabletop role-playing game by designer and author Sarah Newton that I briefly mentioned. I'm reading the book right now, even though I've had it for a little while. I'm getting into it more because I'd like to play it soon. So it seemed quite appropriate to chat about it. And just so you know, for the more serious kind of tabletop gamers who might be listening or watching, so you know what to expect. We didn't actually play the game in this particular conversation, and we didn't really go into tons of details. So I talk about the game system and the setting for a bit, which in turn like gives us some fuel. So we go in tangents to talk about a few other things. So it's pretty accessible. If you don't know anything about games, that's totally fine, because we talk about space, science fiction, technology, Elon Musk, a lot of different things. I hope you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, I hope you share it with a friend or tell a friend about it. So, and take a moment to tell me if you like it, what you like. Ideally, even give the show a 5-star rating, or like it on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, or on your favorite podcast app, depending if you're watching or listening. And another shout out, last bit of promotion, if you want to find out more about my work, booking me to speak or workshops, or you want to join, or any kind of like marketing strategy work for an agency, working on a pitch. You might hear the police sirens, working on, your business. If you've got questions about this new product you want to market, or how to reach your audience, or how to organize your brand, all that good stuff. I'm sure the police sirens are loud. There's the biggest police station of Paris, like the central police station of Paris, is pretty close to my home. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at ICVillem. So that's at letters I and C for ice cream Willem, WILLEM, or on the details on my website at www.icecreamforeveryone.net. You can send me an email. That's Willem, WILLEM, at icecreamforeveryone.net. Now, without further ado, here's Uma. Enjoy. Hey, Uma, welcome to the show.
Hi, Willem. Thank you. It's such an honor and pleasure to be on it.
Thank you very much for making time. It's fantastic to catch up with you. It's been a while.
It's been forever. And yeah, it's so great to see a friendly face on the other side of Zoom.
Yes, it is. Well, because you're not seeing a lot of friendly faces on the other side of Zoom these days.
No, I'm locked up in my house, and the only friendly faces I see are, okay, family and dog. Yep. So
yes. So we used to sit next to each other when we worked at Saatchi Saatchi in Singapore.
I know. Don't you miss me?
It is. I do, actually. I do. 6 years ago. And it was just so much fun to be, and such an honor to be sitting next to you. It was always a breath of fresh air, and you're always smiling and entertaining. And I was the grumpy French guy, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, you were. And then I'd we'd fight, and then we'd make up very quickly, and then we'd talk absolute rubbish.
Cool. Do you want to start with a bit of an introduction? Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do, all that,
Yeah,
all the
sure,
good stuff.
sure. Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Uma Rudd Chia, and I am currently creative director and head of innovation at Weber Shandwick. Innovation is something I love. Creativity is something I love. So I've been there for a year and a half, and before that, I was global creative director at various agencies. The last one was Ogilvy, and it's funny because I left advertising. Wanting to, set up my own little agency within an agency. So I run my team like a startup within Weber Shandwick. It's a lot of fun. It means I have complete veto power over what I do and the type of things we create. In fact, Willem, today we are doing the world's largest branded K-pop show online at 7 p.m. Singapore time. So if you want to catch it, it's with Twice for a JJV Vision Care brand. Besides that, I also speak. I'm a global keynote speaker, and I speak about creativity and innovation and women empowerment, and how ideas are not gender neutral. I believe ideas are male and female, and that's why we need diversity to bring a diversity of ideas to any platform. Those are the things I do.
Awesome. So just for anybody who doesn't know, Weber Shandwick is a public relations agency. Is that correct? They
yes,
usually take care of.
It is. It's a communications and public relations.
Okay, cool.
Agency. Yeah.
And just so the virtual K-pop, what is it? A concert that you're doing?
It's a concert, so it's a live concert, because you know how bands can't have physical concerts now, and even if you can, it's going to be all of 5 people attending your concert.
Right.
Twice is the biggest girl K-pop group. They're like the female BTS.
Sure.
And yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you're not a K-pop
that's fine.
fan,
you have to just like, all right, for anybody listening who doesn't know, like I obviously have got this covered, but
no, so they're a very big K-pop group, 9 girls, and so we came up with this idea. Initially, we had all these big ideas. We're going to shoot stuff that had nothing to do with K-pop and this band, but then when we started talking to the client, we thought, okay, why don't we revisit some of the old assets they have? They had done work with Twice about 2 years back, and then they were so excited by the idea of having the first K-pop virtual concert online on Facebook Live that they renew the contract. Twice was excited too. And tonight it's happening.
That's awesome.
So exciting. Yeah, I'm so excited.
So you're like exclusively publishing on Facebook Live, or are you going multiple platforms?
No, just Facebook Live, so that people are. There's going to be a lot of firsts. So this is going to be the first branded concert. I think we're expecting about 500,000 to 1 million people across 7 markets in APAC, which is huge. Let's just hope platform doesn't crash. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But they're also going to be trying out a lot of the beta tested Facebook sensors online, like AR sensors, in real time for a virtual show.
Cool.
So I'm very
That's super
excited
cool.
about that. Yeah.
That is very cool. A lot of fun.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Let's cover and speak about our theme. So the Ice Cream for Everyone podcast is where play meets strategy. And as you probably know, or as some of the listeners know, I'm interested in games, and some of the themes I choose are for role-playing games. And I asked you to choose a theme, and I chose a game. So we're going to start the conversation from there. I mean, with everything else we're covering, right? And you said space, and you said you're
Yes.
into Star Trek, and I selected a game called Mindjammer, which is like, that's a hefty tome of a book. But
Yes.
it's also a role-playing game. But I also did take the Star Trek role-playing game. It's the older version. There's a newer version, but I've got that under my belt as well. So we can talk about, so we're going to go into a conversation about space, space opera, science fiction, and whatever else we'll come up with, I guess.
Okay.
So tell you a little bit about this game. Are you familiar with role-playing games? Have you ever played a role-playing game?
Only detective role-playing games, not space role-playing games. When it comes
Okay,
to
cool.
space role-playing games, I imagine Elon Musk speaking to me. It's all in my head. Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
And sometimes I wake up thinking it's real. So
Do you dream of Elon Musk? Is that what you're saying?
only once.
Okay. What was
And
he
we were
saying
having a
to-
tech talk. I do not cheat on my husband in my dreams. Okay. So we were having a tech talk.
You're having a tech talk. And was it space related?
It was space. So he told me, so Elon Musk calls me. In my dream, I was at Ogilvy, and Elon Musk calls me, and he says, he's on screen, and he goes, I'm coming to Singapore. And that time, really, I was reading about how he was supposed to come to Singapore. He didn't. His second in command came in the end for SpaceX. But I was reading it, and in my dream, he said, I'm coming to Singapore, and I'm giving you a few hours to speak to me and pitch ideas to me. And I said, hold on. And I went and called somebody else in my dream. Take a look at the screen. Am I being scammed by some Nigerians claiming to be Elon Musk, or is this for real? So they looked at it and they went, oh my God, it's Elon. And then, so Elon Musk says, okay, I'll pick you up at this time from the entrance of Ogilvy tomorrow morning. Think about 3 things you want to talk about. So I said, okay, so what are we going to do? He said, we can do whatever you want to do. And I went, okay. I just want to do the right things, like technology things, because I don't cheat on my husband. I told Elon in my dream. So just so you know, I'm quite faithful like that. Yeah.
Sure.
And then I woke up and then I was wondering, I had to check my calendar to see if I had Elon Musk in my calendar, just in case it was real.
That's awesome. That's a great story. What do you think of the whole, the SpaceX Starlink launches? I didn't read too much about it, but I knew there were a few articles coming out between, while the Starlink and astronomers going, well, we can't watch our stars anymore. What are you doing exactly? That seemed to be the gist of it, but I don't know if you read much about it.
No, I did. I know a lot of people complain. Initially, they were like bright, sparkly things that were competing with the stars.
Yeah.
Then now they said they're going to cloak them so that they look like they're dark and you can't really see them, and you can still see the stars. I mean, I don't know, once you get so many things out there floating in space, they might actually cover the view of the stars. But then they might be so tiny and the stars are so far away, billions of light years away, and so big and awesome, you might still be able to see the stars. But the idea that you're making every corner of the earth connected and technology available to everybody through this, I'm thinking, the price, access to Wi-Fi, access to technology, access to connectivity, whether you're in some remote place in Africa or you're in the heart of like New York City or Singapore, everybody's on equal terms now. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, sorry,
I'm
just
an Elon Musk fangirl, so.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. I don't know enough about him. I should read a lot more of what he says and what he does.
Okay. Since PayPal days, I've been reading about him. So before he became the great Elon Musk, when nobody knew him, Stanford student who just graduated, decided four things were important: e-commerce, energy, space travel, and transportation. I've been reading. So
How did you come across him the first time? Do you remember?
I remember it's, I think, I feel like I was born to be this space navigating futurist, because I always land on stuff that I always am attracted to people like this. So the
Yeah.
moment he started, I remember reading about eBay, sorry, not eBay. I was reading about PayPal, and how his company was buying up PayPal, and how it became PayPal, and what his vision was. It was just a very old interview on what his vision was and why he did it, and how he was saying that when you buy, when you make e-commerce possible, when you make it possible for people all over the world to be able to buy things online, suddenly people don't have to, people's um, people's experiences are not limited geographically, because if you want to taste something, try something, buy something from another part of the world, you don't need to go there. It becomes a lot cheaper for you to experience something. You just need to order it online and it comes to you.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of people that experienced that even more than usual in the past few months,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me give you just a bit of a pitch about the game, and then you can tell me about a little more about your interest. But I think we're in the right direction here. So, in a role-playing game, obviously you incarnate and interpret a character that you create, right? And in this game is a traditional version in which one person who plays the narrator or the game master has probably read a lot of all this stuff. To be honest, I haven't read all of it. I've had it for several years, but I haven't read all of it. And there's a system by which so there's all of it. This is a description of a giant galactic spanning civilization. It takes place 15,000 years into our future, pretty much, and what's called the second age of space. The first age of space in the story of this setting was that they had slower than light, like very close to light speed, capable ships.
No warp technology yet.
No warp technology yet, but for thousands of years, for like approximately 5 to 10,000 of years, they launched colony ships. So there's all these colony ships that went to colonize these planets with no other contact from the solar system because it was just too far away. So there was a diaspora of humanity that became and adapted, and there's like some genetic evolution that allowed human beings to adapt to different kinds of planets without the solar system knowing what these guys have done because they were gone for thousands of years. And in the game story, the last 200 years ago, somebody invented a faster than light speed capable ship. And so suddenly they're recolonizing and re-meeting all these other types of human beings that evolved in different directions for the past several thousand years. So they're just like both and also meeting alien species.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So, and the general thing is called Mindjammer. So there's sentient aliens, sentient spaceships, sentient machines. There's the Mindscape, which is like this super souped up type internet thing that you can go into virtual space. You can also, it's transhumanism. There's some transhumanism, so you can upload your consciousness into the machine. And a lot of people who pass away actually upload their consciousness and then have an option to download their consciousness into a machine or a car
New
or a
body.
starship or
Altered carbon. Yes.
yeah, exactly, altered carbon, exactly. And so they have this galactic spanning thing that they're traveling in very, very faster than light speeds. However, communications don't travel faster than light. So to be able to keep contact with all the different planets of this thing, what they put up together is a special class of starship called the Mindjammer that transports instances of what the internet, if you will, wherever they go. So they update it like on a regular basis when they travel from one solar system to another solar system. So that's and then inside of that, you can, the author says you could just, it's just gigantic. There's a huge amount of description of everything going on. And you can take your pick as to whether you have an adventure that is based on one planet or what style of play you want to have. And the game system itself is based on a system called Fate. And so Fate Core it's an interesting system by which, so a lot of different role-playing games they make design choices on how do you interpret and represent the character that you play.
Okay.
And a lot of them have, for example, characteristics or traits. So they say, okay, well, your character has such and such strength or such and such charisma, for example. But this system has another way of representing characters where they take what's called, we describe what's called aspects. And an aspect is, so imagine, for example, how would your, one of your kids or your husband describe you in a short sentence that could be taken either positively or negatively?
Crazy. Yep.
They would say crazy, but how would they nuance that a little bit?
Okay.
So, for example, for me, I don't know. So, well, actually, the joke that we're making on me being grumpy, because it's true, I can be very grumpy, but I'm also playful. So I was like, all right, so is there something around that is there a way to describe me in a short sentence that says both that I can get grumpy, but I'm easygoing at the same time? So it's something that describes a character trait that can be taken positively or negatively, and the idea is that in some instances your character is going to behave positively, and in some other instances they might have stuff that happens to you in negative fashion. So it's a pretty easy system, and inside of that you can play like just about anything you want. Like, as opposed to, for example, Star Trek is a game where it's a very, very big universe, but the one thing that's fixed is you play Starfleet characters. So you have all of the movie tropes and the series tropes to fall on to the idea that you are Starfleet characters. You can go on diplomatic missions or exploration type missions, but you've got the directives that guide you, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's the game. And then after that, I thought, let's find out more about your interest in space and science fiction. Like, how did you, and Star Trek or whatever other references you might have.
Okay, cool. Are you asking me now, or are we going to play?
Well, no, we're not going to play right now. Well, we can, that's not something I've prepared for this particular conversation, actually. The point to bounce back is like, what is this making you think of? Any other references in the style of what I'm talking about that that you're interested in?
I think for me, I fell in love with space since I was a kid, because it's just so far away, and you see the sparkly stars and you don't know what they are. And I used to dream almost every night for like, I think when I was like 3, 4, 5, I used to dream about jumping from roof to roof of houses in my neighborhood, trying to catch a falling star.
Oh, that's
never
awesome.
Quite caught the falling star, but it was like constantly I'd wake up feeling like I had an absolute workout, because I've been jumping from, doing these little kung fu leaps from roof to roof, with my legs just trying to make it to the next roof, just wanting to catch a falling star. And
where did you grow up, by the way?
When I was little, I was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Okay. Yeah, spent my teenage years in New Zealand, uni in Australia.
Cool.
Came back to Malaysia, went to Hong Kong for a while. Then I've been living in Singapore since. So yes, awesome. Citizen of the world. But so that's where my love started. Those dreams, and you read about stars, and you want to know what stars are, and then you find out that they're just balls of fire, technically. And then you read about supernovas, right? And the whole idea of the black hole. And I started taking courses on physics and dark matter, and the existence of dark matter, and how people are still disputing it. But the fact is, they used Einstein's theory to prove that from the way light refracts on certain shadowy things in space, dark matter theoretically exists, right? So that really got me started. And then I watched Star Trek. Star Trek was something my dad used to watch. I'm from all the way from, I wasn't a big fan of the older Star Trek because the technology wasn't so great, the one with William Shatner. But after Jean-Luc Picard, I got hooked. And The Last Discovery, like, oh my God, I'm waiting for season 3 to come out. That was like the mycelial spore.
I really enjoyed it too. I know that there's some disputes among Trekkies whether that was good or not, but I really liked it.
I liked it too. I thought it was on the ball to, like, multiverses, and how the mycelial spore didn't just let you travel far out into the galaxy. It took you to multiple dimensions simultaneously, which theoretically still, I mean, when I did my dark matter and space travel studies with the University of Tokyo on Coursera, one of the things they talked about was theoretically multiverses can exist, right, based on string theory and the whole lot. Okay, but I'm not going to bore you.
No. This is cool. I like it.
Yeah. So I got so excited about that, but I got really excited when Elon Musk said, one of the things that we need to do as mankind is travel to space. And I feel that the whole thought of waking up in the morning and thinking that you're not going to stay, life on this, okay, we've screwed up the earth in so many ways. Yes, I know. I heard a conversation between Jack Ma and Elon Musk, and they're talking about, it was so funny, if you watch the YouTube video, Elon Musk is like, I'm going to go to space. And Jack Ma's like, yeah, right. What about all the people on Earth? Let's do something to fix the problems on Earth. And that's the constant dispute. But the reality is, economically, I feel that the Earth is already divided geographically, and there are people ruling each geographies. They're called countries and leaders of the countries, right? To me, I always feel actually the Earth has more than enough resources if you want to feed everybody. And rather than thinking, talking about made in China or made in Italy, or even disputing, oh, this is not good because it's made in China or made in Taiwan. Well, now everything and everybody's made in China. And, disputing about how, things that are made in US are better, or things that are made in Europe are better. Imagine the first day when you see something that's made in Mars. Immediately it starts, you won't, it's not even about looking. The moment humans are on Mars, we won't even be talking about made in India and made in China anymore. Suddenly the world's opened up to us, and we are thinking of ourselves as members of the human race, which is really, it's a good time to talk about it, because I'm looking at what's happening with Black Lives Matter and the whole idea of racism around the world right now. And I'm thinking, when people go to Mars, realistically, right, even our physical attributes, we are going to evolve physically because of the fact that the gravitational pull is different. Our bones, our physics, physiology, our structures are going to be responding differently. The way we grow, the air that we breathe, taking in fake or human-made oxygen all the time, our bodies are going to change.
Yep.
And billions of, or even tens of thousands of years ahead, if people from Mars come back to Earth to visit, they're going to look a bit different, like Klingons, or not maybe not Klingons, maybe more like Romulans and more like
Yeah.
Romulans.
Well, probably, I think some of if it's from The Expanse or some others that talk about just slightly longer bodies, thinner bones,
Yeah.
because they're not living in the same gravity, things like that maybe won't be able to actually be on Earth at the time, unless they have like
Exactly.
exoskeletons or things like bubbles, I don't know, to
Which
help
would
them.
probably look scary to humans. I mean, it'd look a bit like Alien versus Predator type, but
Yes.
yeah, but that's the thought of it, right? That suddenly it elevates us and the way we think. We're not limiting ourselves to our geographies anymore. We're thinking beyond the Earth,
Mm.
to humanity doing something big and great. I also watched the documentary on Mars. Have you seen the series?
I don't think so,
So
no.
it's awesome. So there are 2 seasons, and it basically tells the story about 2 groups of people that went to colonize Mars. It was like a semi-fiction documentary.
Okay.
So the fictional part is the story of the people who are moving to Mars to colonize it. It starts with a bunch of explorers and scientists who go there to see if Mars is livable, and they are looking for life forms. The second group are the group that was sent by the people who are trying to get the resources from Mars. The industrialists and the financiers and the business people who are saying, okay, you need to go there and get Mars materials, Mars resources, Mars metals, because that's going to be stronger and better, and these minerals are going to be very important and costly on Earth. Right? And how these 2 people went in with different agendas. One was there to sort of save humanity and back up humanity and build this backup for Earth. The other ones were there to go and make money and come back and send that resources back to Earth to make the people on Earth richer. But while both of them started off reporting to people on Earth, when they arrived there, they realized that even though their objectives and their reasons for being there were different, eventually when you're millions of years, light years away from Earth, and you need to count on each other, suddenly you need to help each other survive. And all those ideologies or all those purposes or whatever, all the money you're making and whatever you're being paid to do when you come here doesn't matter anymore when you're far away from these people who are paying you. And survival is what matters. So it really made me think, like a lot of times we set out to do something, and then when we are right there in that moment, we make other decisions. And in between, you get, like, each time they hit a crucial, oh, should we do this moment, you have people like Elon Musk and different people with opposing opinions talking about the decisions that were made on Earth and the type of decisions that would be made on Mars.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. And I absolutely agree with the things change, and you change your opinion based on the environment and based on the context.
Yes.
For sure. I wanted to bounce back on, and just to mention, because I forgot to credit her, the person who is the author of this book is Sarah Newton. So she's a woman who wrote this whole thing as well. And I really like or at least I'm interested in hearing more from your perspective of ideas have a gender. And
okay.
So
now, to me,
yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you how I came to it, right?
Sure.
So I remember when I was a young creative, and I started off, all these Me Too movements and all were not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advertising was a man's world, very much. It still is in some ways, and people are trying to change that.
Yeah.
But I remember when I went to Cannes, at that time, you see all white old men.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly it's all male, and you hardly see females. Even on the jury, they're all men, right?
Right.
And as a result, when I wanted to win my awards and stuff, I started thinking, okay, how do I win this? And I created some of those. There was one Wonder Bra ad where I put a second yellow safety line on the Singapore train station, the yellow safety line.
Yeah.
Right. So for Wonder Bra wearers, you got to stand behind the yellow safety line, Yes. I mean, it was so sexist, and I'm so embarrassed about it. It's there on the internet and I can't remove it, if you Google it, second yellow safety line. So, but now I have a daughter. I mean, it's not something that that's not the kind of advertising I want to be putting out there. But it was male, it was funny, it was done for a group of people to judge and give you awards, right? And then I started thinking, even when I was at Ogilvy, a lot of my boss, they're awesome people. I like them, but they're all male. And whenever I started bringing my ideas in front, we used to have this thing called CD Away Day, where creative directors would come up with ideas for awards and present it every other week. I started thinking, what would make my bosses like my idea? And I started mansplaining, or I dismissed a lot of good ideas, which I thought were moving and touching and life-changing, and put in a lot of ideas which I didn't necessarily believe in, but I thought would win awards, because I thought they were more male-centric in terms of
you're
thinking.
playing to your audience, right?
I was playing to my audience, except that they were my audience to win the awards. But as an advertising person who's communicating to a diversity of audiences, am I doing right?
Yes.
And am I allowing myself to say that a good idea or creative idea is defined by a set of parameters that they've set? Who are these people to tell me that this is what a good idea looks like? This is an idea that's going to win the awards or award worthy, because these are the ideas that we create. Yeah. And therefore, you need to create within our parameters and our set of rules. That kind of defies and goes against the whole idea of creativity, which should be born from diversity and different backgrounds. And it may not appeal to one person. That's okay. It might appeal to somebody else, might be moved and cry and be touched by it. Isn't that what creativity should be? So I'm not saying that, women create better ideas or whatever. I'm just saying that it's like, if you're going to make fruit juice and you go to a supermarket and you only buy apples and you come back and you mix it and you say, here's a great fruit juice. It's not, you made apple juice. You need a good mixture of oranges and apples and what other fruits in there. And then you say, here's some fruit juice. Instead, what I get now is, I'm going to make a mixed fruit juice with 9 apples and 1 orange. Here's a mixed fruit juice. It's not a mixed fruit juice, even if you throw in a token woman, right? in there in the mix, which is what you see a lot at Cannes in the juries and all that, which is why I'm thinking the whole idea of having an equal number of male and female and even people from different races and different backgrounds is so that you get a diversity of ideas.
Yes. Absolutely
That's
agree.
why I don't think ideas are gender neutral. I think there are male ideas, there are female ideas. They're not wrong or right. We need an equal.
You can't, I absolutely agree. And I think it's a really interesting way to look at it. And as you said, like given everything, like conversations that are going on regarding Black Lives Matter, and also that it's June and it's Pride Month. So anything to do with gender identity is, you know, it's the month. I mean, it's any month and all the time for it, ideally. But, but yeah, I absolutely agree. And generally speaking, it's that I don't think you can dissociate an idea or a concept from the context in which it was born. And the context in which it was born is going to have a gender, it's going to have a context, going to have a cultural background, it's going to have all those different kinds of things. But I also think it raises questions similarly to the kind of clash of opinions you were talking about between Elon Musk and Jack Ma, and like, let's take care of the planet. Well, no, we need to go out to space to be able to do that. That kind of thing. What it remind me of is, okay, is it, you need to, so let me formulate this. Going for awards is very important for the industry and advertising, particularly if you're a creative director. From my side, on the strategy side, it's equally important to try to get effectiveness awards or strategy awards, because it's currency in your career.
Totally, yeah.
At the same time, the vast majority of the people that ideally you want to create an idea for in a communication don't really care about the awards at all. So I think there's an interesting tension there. And ideally, the people judging the awards are representative of the whole of the population, which has not been true at all. And sometimes I wonder for myself, okay, does that mean I should just completely forget about the awards and worry about something else? Knowing that the awards do get me reputation and currency and jobs within the industry, which also honestly pays my rent. So I don't know. What do you think of all that? It's like a complicated, who do I pander to and who would I talk to, or who do you talk to?
What do you worry about? Do both. Like I thought last year at Cannes, it was a good representation because suddenly they increased the number of female jury and there were more Black people on the jury as well. Female, Black, strong women who are making decisions.
Right.
They brought on people from Google and Facebook and from a lot of these tech companies. In fact, Cannes is changing because, it used to be, the beaches and the party areas used to be paid for by the ad agencies. Now it's paid for by the tech companies, right? You've got your Googles and Facebook.
They have a lot more money.
Yeah, they have a lot more money. Yeah. So it's funny because then you see a lot of the work that came out of it. They've got new categories as well in terms of technology, innovation, and data.
Yeah.
And a lot of data-driven ideas won, like the Volvo. Why can't I remember the name? It was this whole data-driven idea about how Volvo actually disclosed its learnings from how seatbelts impact women differently from men because of simply how you are physically, right? Your physique, and how to create seatbelts for women to keep women safe, right? And they took the data and they turned that into a piece of communication, and powerful piece of communication, and that won. It was powerful. And then there was the tampon tax that won last year as well, about how a company actually made money. And you know how tampons cost, women's sanitary products cost 12% tax versus a 7% tax on other things like caviar and luxury goods. So technically, pads and tampons are super luxury. So you know what they did? They got beyond that by pivoting and kind of getting around the rules by turning tampons into a book rather than a box. And in the book, they explain. Okay. Yeah, so they packaged the tampons as part of a book.
And so they got taxed like a book?
So they got taxed like a book. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's so funny because they sold more tampons in that month. So the price was cheaper. They sold tampons like a book because the taxes were lower. And they sold more tampons in that 1 month with massive numbers of pre-orders than they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
it was a good business case study. And the black supermarket where they took uh, they have all these rulings and laws in the EU on what your vegetables need to look like in order for you to sell. So Carrefour actually broke the rules, and they set up the black supermarket where
I
they,
remember that.
yeah, that was quite awesome. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it's pretty awesome. You see really good examples because there's more diversity. The type of things that win are now real work
Yep.
that's changing the game.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about even the Colin Kaepernick, Nike commercial. Nike lost a lot of money in the US, but its shares increased around the world because everywhere else in the world, people were moved by that campaign and started buying. So it was a great business decision. But when you start thinking beyond pandering to a certain group of people and think about causes, think about bigger issues and start creating for those issues, even some of these are really good business decisions. They're not just around issues or they were things, they were good business decisions, good business investments, because it wasn't just, I'm going to go for the CSR idea and I'm going to pump some money in and pretend I own it. Because the black supermarket was a commitment. The tampon tax was breaking getting around the rule. You could get into trouble. It was a commitment, right? So they made a commitment, and suddenly you've got this new breed of consumers who these millennials who want brands to more than sell them great products. They want brands to believe and demonstrate and stand by their own beliefs as well, and resonate, for that to resonate, right? So that's why I'm thinking maybe the rules of the game for Can need to change. Since
Yep.
we're on games,
Yeah,
I think the
absolutely.
rules of the game, the rules of the game need to change and be updated and grow with the way people play today.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, and do you think, actually, this might be meeting, or at least I'm hoping it might be meeting some of your topics as a speaker as well. We were talking about the way that advertising agencies, the big media groups, the big communication groups, have arguably, well, not arguably, because you could just only look at their revenues. They have a lot less power and less money than the big consulting groups and the big tech companies these days. So they still have a lot of influence, and they're the ones that create ideas, but there's a lot more diversity. And in the past few months with the crisis and the pandemic, I made myself available to more students and people graduating who are looking for advice. And I know that some of those people tend to listen and watch some of my podcasts as well. So I was wondering if you have any perspective, or what perspective have you been telling people who are wanting to get into this industry, or wanting to create new ideas for communication and marketing and business? Are you recommending they go in any particular direction, or go work for a brand, or go work in the tech industry, or go work for consulting groups as well as communication? Or do you think those groups should have more influence in those kinds of award shows? It's, again, vast open question, but the idea that whatever comes to mind is cool.
Okay. I just did a talk on how you're more than your job title.
Great.
And where I was encouraging people to not hold on to one job. I think that's going to be the future, because
Yep. I agree with that.
companies, it makes sense to hold on to one job if that one job's going to take care of you for life. But the reality is, the benefits are shrinking. People would rather give you contract jobs. And I think after COVID-19, a lot of companies are realizing how much they've saved on electricity and rent and stuff, and they're going to make working remotely. Initially, they thought it was impossible. Now we've been forced into a situation where people, the people in the companies have been forced to make it work to hold on to their jobs, and the infrastructure in some ways has been laid. So companies now have a valid excuse to downsize in terms of footprint and get people to work remotely. You take care of the rent, you take care of the electricity bill, you just as long as you can do your job wherever you are, I don't care. In fact, you're not even going out for lunch. I've got 3 more hours. Yay. So I think that's going to happen. So why be loyal to a business that's not being loyal to you? I think this is the best time for us, whether you're in advertising, whether you're a creative, for you to think about doing all the things you love versus choosing one and thinking this is going to give me money. So like for me, that's why I speak, I write books, and I I love creativity, so I run my own creative department, my own creative team. And right now, all three things feed feed me. Feed me meaning um, they feed me emotionally, right? Being a creative director, it helps that part of me where I am actually leading a team, coming up with ideas, taking care of the team. I hate Excel sheets, but it's forcing me to learn about money, which is not a
Mm.
bad thing because I'm growing. I still hate it. I still hate it. It's a little bit like breastfeeding my kids, 6 months countdown. I hated it every day. It didn't get any better. After 6 months, I put it, I said, yes, I've done my mandatory 6 months and I'm going to drink my alcohol. So it's a little bit like that, right? So it's a bit, Excel sheets a little bit like that for me. I think I run the fever. If you take my temperature, it'll be higher than normal when I see it. But I also love speaking. So initially, when I started speaking, I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it for the passion because
Mm.
it made me a better coach. It made me a better thinker. It forced me to do a lot of research and start thinking about what's there in the future. And I started growing mentally. And there are topics that I can talk about so easily now that I
Mm.
never could. And
Did you
that's
know
because
what direction you wanted? I mean, did you know how you wanted to, what you wanted to focus on as a speaker, or like what passions or what type of
I knew I wanted to talk
topics
about
or?
innovation and technology.
Okay.
I know that there's such a gap for women
Yeah.
in that space. Also, creativity and the whole gender, create ideas are not gender neutral because I have a daughter and I feel I owe it to the next generation, and I want women to start thinking creatively and being bold in speaking their mind and holding their own. Um, and then the final thing that I do is I actually sing.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So yeah, writing a book I do once a year or once every 2 years because I
So
like
do
writing.
you write your songs as well, or do you just
I
or
just
sing other people's
I
compositions,
sing other
or?
people's songs. I sing in
Okay.
a band. I used to sing in with an a cappella group, and we had 2 albums out. So I mean, I just enjoy it. My husband
Yeah.
plays the bass. We try and sing and play in the same band. He was in the a cappella group with me as well.
Okay.
So
And
it's one
what
of
kind of
those.
music is the band? So a cappella on one side, and the
And
band
then we do
is.
like everything from pop, jazz. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Very
So
cool.
I like that. That's kind of
Yeah,
stuff that.
I absolutely agree with, and that's something I've been talking about with another friend on another set of conversations. Everything about the future is going towards multiple types of jobs in a career that is not spanning through one company for X amount of time, like a long
Yes.
time. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
world is changing. So it actually is difficult and uncertain, but also a great time to get to know. Well, I think like focusing more on like what moves you, what enthuses you, what do you want to focus on, what do you want to learn, and the more
Yeah.
you know yourself and the environment
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
operate
Yeah.
in, the better you're
Yeah.
going to be, the better off you're going to be, and the more you can say, well, I know about this and this and this, and this is what I want to put out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think it's really important for you to understand and discover your purpose. Once upon a time it was like, oh, this is my passion, but I had to give it up because I had to be grounded. I
Yeah.
don't think we need to do that anymore. I think we need to follow. I tell my kids that as well.
Yeah.
Don't I think one of the stupidest questions anyone can ask you is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what do you love doing? Do it now. Find ways to make money with it and
Yeah.
practice and make all the mistakes you can. So by the time you're 20, you've made a lot of money and you can retire by the time you're 30 and not feel so pressured, or just enjoy life and continue doing what you love and make more money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but your end objective is not money. Anyways, both Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have said, 30 years from now, even Jack Ma has said this. He says, 30, 30 years from now, once AI and automation kicks in, a lot of the people think, oh, human beings are going to be jobless. Yes, we may be jobless, but everything would be so efficient. They said that the world, people would be on like a national dole, and things would be so cheap because with efficiency and automation, there'll be small footprints and things being produced in masses very easily. As a result, a little bit of money that the government gives you can take you very far. But what happens if you've been finding your life's purpose based on the job you do? Oh, the title on your name card, right? If that's who you are, what happens when that's taken away? You lose your purpose and your identity. But if you do the things you love and define yourself by that, which is one of the things I tell people to do, look at your LinkedIn title. Is it your occupation title, Or are you giving yourself, why don't you find 3 adjectives or 3 titles that describe who you are in your entirety versus who you are based on your name card, and put it there, because that holistically represents you, and it makes you think about where you want to go every day of your life.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. And so you wrote a book actually, I was going to say 2 things to bounce back on that. And this is, you tell me, but I worked on a pro bono project during the lockdown, which was pretty strict in Paris. And there seemed to be, I did not get bored whatsoever. I had a lot of different things, because I think like if you act the way you're saying and you act on hobbies, passions, projects, you always have a lot of different stuff on the go, right? But
Yeah.
it seemed that the people who did not have that were suddenly lost because their routine was just gone. And
Yeah.
so, and particularly if they have a job that was not, or if they were furloughed, or if they were like on temporary leave from work because their job was not, they couldn't do it from work, from home. Suddenly, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there seemed to be a story going on that there's a lot of people that are bored and watching Netflix all day because they don't have anything to do, which I was like, most of the people I was talking to had a lot to do, either because they have kids and they have to homeschool their kids, plus work their job, plus, take care
That's
of the
just
house
like
and do
me. Plus,
everything
I was
else.
allergic to my dog. I mean, yeah, it was crazy.
You're allergic to your dog?
Okay, so I have a dog.
Yeah.
It's just, I've had dogs my whole life when I was not living in Singapore, in New Zealand, on the farm, in Malaysia. But we had land, and the house is big, and the dog could go out, come back in, which is fine.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a 3-bedroom condo. We live in the east, 10 minutes away from the beach, and the level of humidity is really high. Even my dog has asthma. Okay, beat that. it's, it's crazy. And here I am at home all day, so it was okay. I mean, I used to have a bit of sniffles and stuff. It's just the humidity level is very high. So I've developed a bit of an allergic rhinitis since coming to Singapore and living in the east. So staying at home 24/7 with a dog who thinks I'm his girlfriend and only wants to stick near me and refuses to go anywhere to anybody else. Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, he's there at my feet. Oh, pick me up, mom, pick me up,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've gotten over it. 1 month of sneezing, coughing nonstop, and I'm good.
Okay, got it. So your experience with people around you were you were busy and they were busy as well. Do you think it's a myth? I mean,
No, there are people who are not. Yeah, there were people who are so bored. I was so envious of them actually, because I just wanted that little bit of. It used to be okay if I could just go out and sit in a cafe and have a coffee or a drink, a bit of gin on somebody else's seat besides mine. Would have been nice. It didn't need to be long, just 15 minutes. I would have been happy. But the fact that I was at home, and my day started at 7 and finished at like 9 every day. It was either I was doing a webinar, as one of my talks, or I had work meetings, or I was helping the kids with homeschooling. It just was, it got a bit crazy, but there were people who were free. And yeah, I think they were a little bit lost when suddenly you they found their fulfillment in attending meetings, with people physically there and getting acknowledged for the work they do physically and getting a pat on the back and
yeah. No, but I think we need some positive reinforcement sometimes. But I guess the message is to anybody out there is multiply the amount of things that you get yourself into. Where they be hobbies, passions, side projects, things you learn, doing courses, all sorts of other things to keep developing yourself.
Yeah.
And you wrote a book as well during the pandemic as well, or a quick ebook, which I have downloaded but I haven't read yet, to be honest. So
you need to read it. It's very easy. Once you sit down, you can read it in I think less than an hour. Okay. It's called how 10 things brands could do to survive. I started off with to survive COVID-19, but then it got rejected 3 times to survive a crisis. Yeah. So I had my little crisis when I published the book, because at that time there was just right smack at the start of it. And initially Amazon published a lot of rubbish about how goji berries could cure COVID-19 and all that. And then they got a lot of flack for publishing, allowing people to publish that. Then they went to the other end. They became really strict. And they started getting freelancers to like do the approval. It wasn't a bot approving, right? So my book got rejected like 3 times. And I had done all these interviews to say the book was going to be published on like a Monday. Crazy, one with someone in UK, and then one with a big newspaper in Singapore, and then one with the radio station. I was like, oh my god, it better be out, But eventually the book got published just on the Friday, just before the Monday, on Good Friday. It basically has 10 things that brands need to do, and a few of the chapters have really physical, like step-by-step things you could do. How do you, as a brand, from a creative perspective, what sort of assets can you use? How do you reuse old assets and make new things? So very, very practical tips, free ideas inside. And I wrote it for 3 reasons. Firstly, there was so much bad news when it first happened, right? Everybody was talking about doom and gloom. And I was thinking we should talk about what we're going to do when we get out of it and how we're going to get out of it. The second thing was because the people who were talking about the positive bits were talking about, oh, we need to do this, we can do this, but no one was talking about how can we do it? What do I need to do now? So I wanted to give them the what. And thirdly, if I wanted to talk about point 1 and 2, I needed to prove that I could do it. I wanted a bestseller. So from the time I got my book out, so it took me 24 hours to write it in total in terms of number of hours, over 3 days.
Wow.
I wrote it, and then it took a while to get it published, like 5 days of rejection, and then finally it was out after I made some fixes and everything, and after 24 hours of it being out, it became a bestseller on Amazon. I was surprised, and but of course I was like telling all my friends and family members and people in the industry to buy it, but then I started getting and then I started having people ask me for 2 things. I started getting a lot of webinar invitations on different points to talk about, So people were like, hey, can you talk about the first 3 points? Or can you talk about these 3 points? Can we do a webinar on it? So I said, fine, I'll do a webinar on that. And then I started having people call me from all over the world on how to write a book. Can you teach me how to write a book in 1 week? Wow. Can you tell me the process? Like very basic things, like what sort of software should I use to write the book? How should I do the cover? How do I publish on Amazon? What are the steps? How do I get payment from Amazon? So,
did you use a specific software to write, or not particularly?
Maybe we should do this on another session.
Maybe we should do this on another session.
No, I did. Cool. I just used Pages.
All right.
And exported it as EPUB.
Great. Perfect.
That fits perfectly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this is great. We're going to wrap things up, and I usually finish with what I call because it's still the ice cream for everyone podcast. So the cool down questions, and the obligatory compulsory one is: do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
I have rum and raisin. Ice cream. Rum and raisin.
Rum and raisin.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Any particular brand?
I'm on a keto diet now, so I haven't had rum and raisin for a while, but I can.
Have you tried keto ice cream?
No, I haven't.
I have friends who are really, really into keto diet, so they make keto ice cream, and it tends to be dark chocolate, coconut, grease, milk, something, and
grease.
A lot.
I like how you say grease.
Fats, coconut fat,
Suddenly, I have visions of car tire in my.
And a lot of egg yolks. But there's probably several recipes, but. My friend
I've started Googling keto recipes with no eggs, okay? Because after a while, all you smell is eggs.
Yeah, because that seems to be like one of the main cornerstone of a keto diet seems to be egg yolks for a lot of people, no, isn't it? Or maybe that's his diet, I don't know.
It is actually in the recipes, but you can look for other stuff. After a while, it just gets too much. Yeah. I don't mind boiled eggs and fried eggs for breakfast, but I can't do egg yolks.
Got it. All right. Next question is, what's the last piece of art or media that had an impact on you? So anything, could be a book, could be a TV show, a movie, an art piece, something that you'd love to share that had an impact.
What was the last? Oh, there were so many things. I think it was. I actually watched Space Force.
Oh yeah, I watched it too. Actually, yeah. What do you think?
I was a little. I didn't like the first episode because I thought it was neither here nor there. It wasn't funny enough, and it didn't get me thinking. Yeah, thinking
I agree.
enough.
I kind of
Yeah.
kept watching it because it was just interesting enough,
Yeah.
but it also
Yeah.
just felt like not that funny, very close to probably reality at the same time, without
Yeah.
being.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, but what I liked about it was the fact that it made you think about a lot of issues. Like, I mean, it was quite funny about, when there was this episode where they were trying to land and on a space and they realized China was already there and they couldn't land. And then they were like orbiting or just loitering in space and hanging there. And they tried to use diplomacy. And then in the end, they just landed.
Yeah.
And then, and then I mean, it was funny how in the end, I think their base got destroyed by China, right? Well, they were
Yes.
going to they were going to
It's a
capture the
big
Chinese.
spoiler, by the way.
Sorry.
I just realized.
Oh my god. Yes, I'm sorry. But it got me thinking about how sometimes we forget why we're doing something, and we get caught up in the what we're going to do
Yes.
action. Yeah, which is very America and China right now, or America and the rest of the world. I'm sorry, American friends.
Yeah. No, quite
Yeah,
true.
but yeah,
I
but
just
that
finished
was
watching. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. That
no,
was one
no.
of
So
the
that
last
was
things,
it for me. Yeah.
Cool. I just finished watching the new show Upload on Amazon Prime, which is very good. Really, really, really good. Scary close to what the very near future could look like quite easily, but also very smart and very
Really?
sweet. Kind of quite funny
Oh my
as
god, I
well.
gotta watch it. I don't
Yeah,
have
it's good.
Amazon
It's
Prime. Okay.
near future, and people can, before they die, can decide to upload their consciousness, but upload their
Carbon,
consciousness
carbon. Okay.
in uh, a 3D environment owned and managed by Singtel or whatever your telecommunications program is.
Oh my god, that's just
It's worth watching. It's really interesting. It's good.
okay.
It's good.
That's like Facebook
It's
a little
both
bit.
fantastic. Oh, it's and all
Isn't that
the
what
future.
Facebook is doing technically? They're taking your social
All the
life.
companies have got merged names, so it's Oscar Mayer Facebook Aeon, or it's just so it's like food company plus tech company plus whatever that seem to own half
Okay.
the world.
Yeah, yeah.
It's both very good but scary close to what tomorrow can easily be.
I think yeah, yeah. I think social media is the new actually geographically, social media is the new countries and the people who own them are like technically the leaders.
Yes, yeah. That's a whole other topic. All right, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is something that everybody should experience at least once? Should
What is
do or experience?
I think it's planned rejection. I think you need to do something
Uh-huh.
that's going to make that's stupid and somebody's going to say no to it
Okay,
and you need to go and do it.
cool.
I was
So just
watching I was
experience
watching
rejection
Yeah,
and
and you
plan
need
it.
to plan it. I mean, it's
Okay,
not
cool.
like, oh my God, I'm scared to see my boss, but I'm gonna. You need to think, okay, I'm gonna do something like I'm gonna go and ask my neighbor to borrow something that I
Yeah,
know the neighbor loves, like maybe his dog for a day, and he loves his dog, and I'm gonna go and ask, and I know the neighbor's going to reject me and say, no, are you crazy? But I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go do it.
cool. It sounds like playing with rejection.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I watched this guy who did it actually, and then I tried it. He
Uh-huh.
wrote about 100 days, I think 90 days or 100 days of rejection. This Chinese
Yeah,
dude living in the US, and he did crazy things. The one that stood out for me was when he went to his neighbor's house and he rang the doorbell, and he had this big black neighbor from the Bronx who looked like he could take a shotgun and kill you. But he just knocked on the neighbor's house and he said, "Can I go, you've got an empty yard, can I go to your yard and play football?" Football. And the neighbor said, you want to come to my yard and play football? And it's like I've never spoken to you in my life, right? It's like, yeah, I know, but I noticed your empty yard. And the neighbor actually said, yeah, come on in.
yeah. That's part of the surprise that you'd have if there's a lot of people that actually would say yes to things like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I think you should
Serendipity.
do it. Yeah.
That's great. Fantastic. That's a great answer. Awesome. All right. Where can people find you if they're looking for you? Websites or details, or where are you most
LinkedIn.
active?
LinkedIn, Uma Rudd Chia. I'm going to should I type it to
I'll
everyone?
put it in the show notes as well, and they can see your name on the Zoom video, or
I
if
can
they're
send you
listening.
my links. Yeah,
Yes,
LinkedIn.
make sure. Yeah. I'll send you LinkedIn. All right, cool. They can look for you on
That's
LinkedIn.
the easiest way. I respond.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for making time for this. I really appreciate it, Uma. It's great to catch up with you.
Great to catch up with you, Willem.